Podcast is intended for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed are those of the panelists and do not reflect in any way those of the podcast partners, sponsors, or affiliates. Enjoy.
Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and you're listening to the voice of the people. Let's get ready for Boxing Voice.
What's up, this is Danny Garcia. You're listening to the Boxing Voice.
BoxingVoice.com. All the guys want, I want what Mayweather got. I want what Mayweather got. He done bust your ass like Mayweather. I was trying to fight every fighter. I sacrificed a lot
WBC production
to get to where I got to.
What do you bring to the table?
Let's get this on. Let's do it.
Well, it's like this. Wait.
All right, that's it. Hold on. Bernard, everybody calm down.
Man, you know how these bitches is in the sport. Total disrespect. Kid has no class, no style at all. I sacrificed a lot. BoxingVoice.com to get to where I got to. BoxingVoice.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Boxing Voice Radio. Hashtag TBV Podcast. We are back. The number to call in, 1-425-569-5241. Press 1 time if you want to voice your opinion on the Voice of the People hotline. We're back with some breaking news. We're going to be talking to you about Danny Garcia versus Brandon Rios is now the WBC final eliminator. Keith Thurman goes from one mandatory challenger in Shawn Showtime Porter to two. The winner of Rios Garcia will be a final eliminator. I mean, I guess we want your opinions on this and what do you think of this route? I'm going to head on out to the Golden State to my co-host to get this thing started, Matt the Hipster Hunty.
WBC production.
This is a beautiful performance against a very tough guy in Michael Johnson. How do you feel about it?
Fuck that. Conor McGregor.
BoxingVoice.com.
You know me, Larry. From a wicked entrance, from a flip over the rock into a knockout now. When the main thing is, I just hope the guy, I wish.
BoxingVoice.com.
Yes, the Hipsters here. Haters beware. It's the first show of 2018. Welcome, TBV family. And yes, it's about Danny Garcia versus Brandon Rios. So make that if you will. Hopefully it's not a sign of the year to come. But this show's mainly for some clarification as well, because I saw a lot of fans thinking that this meant that Danny Garcia, who we think is going to win this fight, is going to leapfrog Shawn Porter. That is not the case. Shawn Porter is still first in line. The winner of this fight is the second mandatory after Shawn Porter. And obviously, we're going to delve into the merit of this fight. Should it be for a title eliminator, etc. Can't wait to chop it up with you, Ness, and the callers. Should be a fun show.
Well, let's get into it. I mean, you're saying that it would be the second shot. Where are you getting this information from?
Well, the direct quote from Mauricio Suleiman is champion Keith Thurman will return in a voluntary title defense as he has recovered from his injury. Shawn Porter is the mandatory challenger, and Danny Garcia will fight Brandon Rios in a final elimination bout for the second mandatory due to the inactivity of Thurman. So to me, the way I interpret that statement from Mauricio Suleiman is that due to the inactivity of Keith Thurman, we're going to make sure we have two mandatories lined up for you. The first one, Shawn Porter. The second one is going to be the winner of Danny Garcia versus Brandon Rios.
Now, from my understanding, if Keith were to have two mandatories, let's say hypothetically, and both guys were Shawn and Danny, he could face Shawn and then do a voluntary, right? He doesn't have to go straight into a Danny after Shawn.
Yes, from my understanding of how mandatories and voluntaries work, you are exactly right that once he fights mandatory, he's allowed to have a voluntary after that.
I mean, if you're thinking, what's the best thing to do? Maybe if you're Keith, you want to fight both your mandatories. You know, you get Shawn and then you get Danny. and you let that Errol Spence fight marinate, or opening a possibility to see how big Terrence Crawford is after 2 fights in 2018, where his name lies in the welterweight division. I mean, we obviously think he's going to fight Jeff Horn, but after Horn, if he gets another decent name, people may start throwing him in there with the top.
Agreed. And the idea that it's also a money fight in a way. Danny Garcia still represents money, even though he just lost in March. It hasn't fought since. Has been very inactive, very quiet since. He still represents a check. So for anyone out there thinking that, you know, it wouldn't be a financial path that would probably be advised to take Shawn, then Danny, maybe a voluntary in between those two before fighting the Spences and the Crawfords, that makes a lot of sense. And they're still top 5 welterweights. They still equal multi-million-dollar paychecks and incredible wins. And it sort of shores up the 2 close fights of your career. You know, if anyone wants to question Keith Thurman, it's based off of Shawn and Danny in those fights. So if I'm Keith, maybe I'm thinking, I get these rematches, clear up all the misconceptions about me, and I make a bunch of money doing it, and then I fight Spence or Crawford.
Sounds like a perfect world.
It does, and that's probably what he's either being advised or what he has already come up with, because we both know that Keith Thurman is a very intelligent person and thinks about his career path. He does. He thinks about the business side of it as well.
We spoke about this a few days ago about Danny and the way that he is able to come back and get significant fights based off the name. This is a clear example of that. Now this fight being attached to a final eliminator definitely has eyebrows raised. But I'll ask you, does this somehow help Danny in his public perception? Many people thought he was afraid of Shawn Porter and facing Porter in a WBC eliminator back last year when Porter faced him. When Berto faced Porter. So, I mean, being a mandatory is a direct line to a champion that is a threat.
To answer your question, yes. To answer very directly, yes, it is 100% a little bit of shade, or at least the fans are going to throw shade on Danny for this, because he avoided eliminator with a tougher opponent. Now he's taking one with a soft touch, so to speak. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to look at Danny like, oh, that's Danny being Danny again. You know, there's a reason that the cherry pick, you know, term has been thrown around with Danny Garcia for a while. This is another case of that, of avoiding one guy for another guy for the same exact position or accolade, so to speak, as an eliminator bout.
Now, what about these crazed DSG fans that say Danny should be allowed to fight a tune-up coming off of his first loss? It's been about a year, and they're still giving him claims to his unified status at 140 many years ago.
I think I completely agree with that. I think even Danny haters should probably agree with that as well. The problem is...
Wait a minute. It sounds like you're saying Danny does deserve some sort of leniency or pass due to his...
having a loss. He just had a loss, of course. No. I think if anyone coming off a loss should go have a softer touch. They should not fight the same level of competition. I think that's for everyone. Hold on very quickly. But that does not mean that fight should be for a title eliminator. And that also does not mean if you avoided a tougher guy for the quote-unquote soft touch after the loss and then have a title eliminator thrown at it. Like, you know what I mean here? Like, it still doesn't take away. It's not mutually exclusive. He can take the soft touch and it be completely acceptable and reasonable, but that doesn't make it being for a title shot fair. Because then we lower the bar for what is a title shot.
Fair is a bad word. In boxing, things aren't fair.
No, and then I absolutely agree with that. Of course they aren't fair. That's why we have these positions. That's why we have tons of vacant title opportunities that are thrown up to promotional ties and etc. Like, we see this all the time in boxing. Favoritism through sanction bodies.
If you're Brandon Rios you got to be happy with the services of Al Heyman, though.
If I'm Brandon Rios, of course.
I mean, because he had that one fight versus Herrera, and that was in June. Then he was immediately rumored about 16 weeks ago to be having this fight with Danny in November. It didn't happen, but it obviously happened. A couple of months later, Danny gets more time off. Now it'll be about a year or before, a couple of days shy of a year before he gets back in the ring. Adding to the longevity of his career, but not increasing to the legacy. Smart move by Danny to sit out a year and wait for this eliminator fight with Rios, which he's favored to win, and have a direct line at a rematch, which is originally what you wanted because you felt you won a controversial fight that was, I guess, sanctioned a loss for him.
So what's the direct question? Sorry, because you said a lot right there. Because you went from Brandon Rios' position to Danny Garcia. So which angle am I looking at it from?
Both, really. I mean, for Rios, he made the statement already for people not to get on his dick if he wins. So obviously,
very, very quickly, Rios, no one's going to do that. No one's going to jump on your dick and hype and go on a hype train for you.
No, I don't know if he buzzsaws Danny Garcia. Let's think of what was Brandon Rios' best performance. It's hard to think if he could really beat Danny. Who'd he beat the best? Alvarado, maybe? And those were some tight fights. Not tight, but he definitely took some blows in those fights.
His best wins are usually fights that he also gets hit a lot in. So it's hard to say. Like, he doesn't have clean wins usually.
Well, he did look good. He blew out Miguel Acosta that time on Showbox a couple of years ago. But
yeah, but then that's like, okay, like cool.
He wasn't able to do anything afterward. Like
Danny Garcia looked like a fucking A+ level guy against Rod Salka. Like, that doesn't mean everything. You can look great in certain fights, but if you don't look great in the great fights, that means something.
This is true. Listen, oh my God, I feel almost disrespectful thinking it and about to utter these words, but is Brandon Rios an overachiever?
See, I think that term is not a negative. I think an overachiever is a great thing to be. That means like your natural skill and talent
is great, but it also says that I never thought you'd be here.
Yeah, I would tend to say that Brandon Rios is an overachiever. We never thought he was going to be a guy that could clean out 140 or clean out 135. Right? Like, we never thought that. He was a good action fighter. He was a poor man's Arturo Gatti of his generation in a lot of ways, and that's something that is good. You can make a lot of money being a poor man's Arturo Gatti.
I don't know, man. He had some hype behind him, but his career has been ridiculed with inconsistencies. His debut with Anthony Peterson on HBO was a great fight where he showed his balls. He didn't once complain to the ref after numerous low blows by Peterson, who later was obviously stopped because he couldn't take the heat in that kitchen. And his next fight was on a Manny Pacquiao undercard with that guy, Omari Lothar, which he came in not looking well. So the talk of the fight was Rios' body, but he handled his business. Now, obviously, Lothar, we never heard of him again. Miguel Acosta was his next win on Showtime.
You don't think Brandon Rios got some HBO push behind him?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You talk about that a lot on this show about the HBO push, the HBO hype train that they
he was with the right promoter, though. He was with Top Rank. I mean, I'm just saying, and listen, I never thought this before until I went to my favorite website and glanced at his resume. And I'm like, well, damn. Danny beats every guy on this guy's resume, and it's questionable, does Danny lose to the guys that beat Rios, which are Pacquiao, and Bradley, and we can throw in Diego Chavez in there because that was a pretty tough fight, but they both were on some cheating shit. And that's what I'm saying. Like, when you think about Rios, it's like, yo, which one was his best fight? The Abril fight, people thought he lost. The Alvarado fights, I mean, they were all wars. Pacquiao starched him. Diego Chavez and him were doing some bullshit. Bradley outclassed him. It's like, yo, who's his best win? Maybe Miguel Acosta?
That's probably it. That's probably his best win. Or best looking win.
Maybe Alvarado. Alvarado's probably the best win. It was like a trilogy, I think, or right? Or a double, I don't know, something like that. It had more hype. There was buzz. They went from one town to the next. They even took boxing to Colorado. So maybe that was his.
There's no Lucas Matisse on Brandon Rios' resume. Simply put. There's not even a Robert Guerrero.
Yo, but thinking of it in that perspective, or from that perspective, excuse me, is this a cash out for Rios? Because I never really heard that there was an official Heyman deal.
Yes, I think it's a cash out.
Interviews I heard was more like fight-by-fight basis.
I think Rios still, to me, does not look like he is in tremendous shape. To me, he looks like he came back to get some extra money before he leaves the sport. And I don't fault him for that. That this is your only career for your entire life. Of course, you're going to try to get as much money out of it as possible. And like I said, Danny Garcia probably still represents the biggest money fight, quote unquote, in the division, other than a Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather. And those don't exist at this point anymore.
If you had to guess, how much is Rios getting paid for this? Let's keep in mind that Arreola got like $150 to fight Wilder for a WBC title shot. It was short notice, though.
Definitely getting 6 figures. I don't know where, though. I think it's probably getting $250,000. Maybe 300,000. Danny getting a guaranteed, and I'm using that word very specifically, guaranteed of maybe like $1 million, 900,000. We all know there's a backroom check.
1.2 because he got like 800 or 750 for like a Salco or a Vargas. So
that's true. Yeah, 1.2. You're right. 1.2 with an 100K, in the mailbox.
Wow.
And if I'm Garcia, this is the best fight for you. It is the best move to make an eliminator fight. If I'm in Garcia's camp, this is completely. I mean, I was going to use the word manufactured, but that's wrong. It was orchestrated. This is an orchestrated matchup for all the right reasons. If I'm Garcia, and that year layoff, like you originally asked, and we went down the rabbit hole. That year layoff is probably good for Garcia. He's been boxing for probably 15 years straight. He may need a year off. And he had a loss.
That is one of his things. He just posted something on social media maybe 3 days ago. I'm not sure if you watched it. I stalk all these guys. And it was something like, the time, paraphrasing, I needed the time off. I've been fighting all my life and yada, yada, yada.
Every great takes time off. I hope everyone understands that. Every great fighter you can think of took some time off at some point in their career.
Yo, my peoples at BoxRec got the game messed up, man. They got
those like fucking ads. You gotta get an ad blocker. I had to get one.
Well, I know the thing is I don't deal with Chrome only for the show, so my ad blocker's on my Safari. And Chrome trying to work, and then BoxRec is acting up. Now, I actually shout out to J Day. And shout out to Enrique, late as fuck. J-Day says, whatever happened to Sam Eggington? Would we have been less critical if it was an Eggington and not a Brandon Rios?
No.
But would Eggington lose anyway?
Sam Eggington would definitely lose.
No. Didn't he lose? Like,
yeah, he lost the last fight.
That must be the UK guy saying that shit then. Whatever happened to Eggington? Why would we even ask if he lost, bro?
But I think anyone
he lost his last fight to somebody nobody ever heard of.
Garcia is not a B-level fighter, and Rios at this point may not be a B-level fighter. So, and I don't know what level Sam Eggington's at because we never saw him at a world level. So, I think Garcia trashes those guys. I think Garcia's going to knock out Rios at some point in the fight. Maybe not like a clean knockout, but TKO. He's going to finish Rios in this fight.
Now let me ask you. We often, and I say we being nice, the public often paints Danny as a cherry picker, as a fraud, a scared guy. Excuse me?
Which is hyperbolic. There may be some, truth to some of it, but it's a little bit hyperbolic, all of that.
But all right, look at his opponent to be Rios. What would you say his tough fights were? Pacquiao, Bradley,
Chavez,
you label that tough.
Chavez at that time, he won.
But Chavez never proved to us, and he had the opportunity. He had 3 high-level fights with Thurman, Rios, and Bradley, and he never proved to us that he was on that level. And then he came and got stopped by Jamal James this year.
True. But again, I would say at that time, Chavez meant something. It may not have meant a lot, but he was a top 15 welterweight.
I hear you. I just wouldn't label him as tough, but staying on track. We give Brandon shitload of credit for having balls. He's this, he does the Mexican war cry. Like, we've always loved him. His fights are packed. They're cheering. People love him. They love him. Even in losses, they love him. But he hasn't faced the tougher opposition.
Well, you can argue that he has, but he's lost. I mean,
really? Who's the tougher opposition? Pacquiao?
Timothy Bradley and Pacquiao. I mean, there was a point that it was Mayweather, Pacquiao, and Bradley.
All right, Timothy Bradley and Pacquiao. And then for Danny, you got Matisse, Thurman, and Lamont.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. Do we think Lamont's the same level as those guys? No.
The same level as who?
The Thurman, a Matisse, a Pacquiao, a Bradley, any of those guys?
Yeah, Lamont lost to Bradley, and Lamont definitely, in my opinion, will beat Rios. Lamont beat Victor Ortiz, and because Victor Ortiz was the HBO house fighter, he got a draw.
Lamont lost to Bradley and lost to Matisse.
Yep.
So how does that make him on the level of those guys? He has losses to those guys, just like Rios. We can say Rios is at the level of Pacquiao and Bradley just because he fought those guys. He lost those guys.
You're right. You're right. You're right, but you're just arguing because you know that fucking Lamont beats Rios.
Yes. Oh, if that's where you were going, yes, absolutely. Lamont Pearson does beat Rios. Yes.
Or does he? He did beat his brother. Rios did.
Come on, Anthony.
Disqualification.
Anthony isn't Lamont. Let's all be completely.
He isn't, bro. He isn't. They've been shelving that kid, man. He's like 30 years old, still a prospect.
No, man, he ain't a prospect. Come on,
up, man.
All the Warren brothers, like is it Warren? No, the Russell brothers. All the Gary Russell brothers that are all named Gary Russell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have no idea which one is rich after Gary Russell Jr.
But just to keep playing here, right? I mean, Amir Khan, when Danny fought him, he beats Rios.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know that. What year was that? 2012. How good was Rios back then in 12? Because Rios was a serious pressure fighter back then. Oh, you see, that was his Mike Alvarado days, but Richard Abreu did make him look like shit in 2012.
I could see Amir Khan dancing around him and outboxing him.
Yeah.
Combination for 12 rounds.
What about Zab? Zab in 2013 when he fought Danny in the Barclay.
Zab in 2013 probably loses to Brandon Rios in 2013. Zab of 2006, 5, 4 probably beats him. That's the difference of a decade right there.
What for Rios? What's next for Rios if he wins this? Like,
wait, Rios would
be obviously the eliminator, right?
No, he's good. He's in the title. He got.
Yeah, if you're Rios, do you really want to go straight out of Thurman? I mean, it's probably better for Rios to go out of Earl. It's more his style. Yeah, it may hurt more, but it's what he's good at.
Or do you go, or because because you mentioned earlier, and hold on, let me get the soundbite. Because we really don't know If there's an official deal with Al Heyman, maybe he goes back to Top Rank and fights the winner Jeff Horn, Terrence Crawford.
That is possible, but I'm pretty sure.
No, Bob will throw him some
Just
money.
like Mikey. Yeah, but just like Mikey, when he first dealt with Heyman and made it clear that he was not with Heyman,
He's only
it also make it clear that they have first options. Showtime and Heyman have first options. So it would be similar to the Anthony Joshua story where, Showtime and Al Heyman would match whatever it is that Top Rank is offering Rios, and Rios would just stay to be the nice guy, which is good if you're Rios. It's like, yo, they offered me $2 million to fight Horn, and then now Al got to come give you a $2 million fight on this side.
The one problem is that this, even though it's for a title eliminator, this isn't really for a belt. So even though, if let's say in a hypothetical world he beats Danny Garcia, and he will probably get a good paycheck and a probable title shot somewhere next, he's not getting the bag, so to speak, because he doesn't have the belt. It's not like Saddam Ali beating Cotto. You know what I mean? Like, because Saddam Ali now has a belt.
Yeah.
It's a bigger bargaining chip, so to speak. But
the good thing about this fight is we got Robert Garcia back in the corner. And I have to disagree. Earlier in the show, you said Rios doesn't look like he's making weight.
I didn't say not making weight. I was saying he still doesn't look.
Yeah, he's talking about his body.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he's in prime shape.
I don't know, man. I think I like what I see.
He looks like an old fighter.
Shout out to Ellie Setback. What award did we give him last year?
Ooh. I forget the name of it, but it's basically like media of the year, like media pioneer of the year.
It was like hustler or something. Yeah, pioneer. I think it was pioneer. But he's definitely a hustler. Shout out to him. He's all the way in the camp. Me and Matt were doing a little bit of research, and it was obvious. Rios is working. And he's in there with Josecito Lopez. Lopez was doing good versus Maidana. He lost, but he was doing good. He could be fine-tuned. Now he's with Garcia. He's been with Garcia for a long time. They're building him up slow. He's also in there with Mikey. They got that other undefeated Ukrainian in there too, right? That Mikey's sparring with. It's like 18-0.
I forget his name.
Yeah, me too.
I know what you're talking about.
Yo, Roadblock Boxing. Josecito Lopez is a bum. Yo, Robert Ortiz from Las Vegas always used to call him Pobrecito Lopez. Like,
I remember that.
That's fucking funny, yo. You guys are mean. Yeah, man. Look, I guess we're gonna go out to the callers, bro. Let's hit the sponsors real quick. Look, it's a new year. We're trying to get off on a good foot. We already got the word from Earl Spence, so we need to make sure that all the necessary boxes are checked so that we could get out to that camp. And it's short notice too. It's next Tuesday. Matt, what's that schedule looking like? Keep that off air. We'll talk about it. You were busy today. That's why I asked you, but you were busy. I would have been told you this. But yeah.
Looks like a text. You know that, right?
Huh?
You could send
I woke up to your message that said, no, but I could text or something like that. Bro, I was passed out. I've been sick. I was throwing up like crazy yesterday. I don't know.
You got the flu too? You got the flu?
Probably because I didn't eat anything out of the normal to make me.
Yo, that's the flu.
I've been feeling.
Everyone out there right now, watch out, because everyone in my household has gone sick. So just be safe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying my best this year. I mean, boxing hasn't been helping, bro. I've been wanting to do shows, but it hasn't been the best titles out there. There is something. Anyway, we'll talk about it off air. The number to call in, 1-425-569-5241. Press 1 time. We're looking for your opinion on Danny Garcia versus Brandon Rios, now being named a final eliminator to Keith Thurman's WBC title, and he's also the WBA champion in the welterweight division. Let's get out to the sponsors.
These calls are brought to you by El Camino Electrical Services, experts in electric vehicle charging stations. For consultations and turnkey installation, visit us at
Just like the king is what I mean. The king is what I mean. My man, get a cup and put some change inside your hand. Now hold up. Let's make this official. Everybody, let's agree that.
So Brandon Rios and Danny Garcia is the fucking eliminator, right? I would have had a little bit more respect and appreciation before the bell starts. I had a.
I mean, you're breaking up.
We're gonna go out to Atlanta. I mean, call us back, baby. GT Kid, what's going on?
What's going on, fellas? Man, I'm listening to this show and I can't believe that this is an eliminator for the WBC, man. I'm with Georgie Porgy, man. This is on some mafia, WBC mafia type nonsense, man. And it's all DSG's fault, man, because they made him a mandatory. They told him to fight. They told him to fight the eliminator with Porter already. They offered him to fight. They called DSG. You know how the Porters are. The Porters are going to be real vocal if they're calling you out. And they were very vocal about it. They didn't have anything to hide. And DSG was not trying to have that fight. So now DSG is going to fight another cherry pick. And he's still going to be the mandatory. So now Keith Thurman's got two mandatories. So the only thing I can see is that Thurman's going to fight his fight. And then Porter and Danny is still going to get made before they fight Thurman. That way you'll have Thurman has time to get his voluntary in and get Spence in 2018 and then come back and fight his mandatory for the WBC, the winner of Porter Garcia. So, I mean, we're going to see what happens, but, I mean, this is nonsense, man. DSG, man, his career 147 is garbage. You know, 140's over and, you know, his legacy is looking bad right now.
All right, GT Kid, thank you for calling in. What's up, Matt?
Amin, call back in.
All right. Let's talk about something he just said. He said Danny's career at 47. What was the word he used?
I do not know. I was doing producer shit.
You're always producing. Let's bring him on. Let's see what he says. GTK, what was the word you used on Danny's career at 47?
Danny's career at 47 is garbage.
Garbage. All right. Thanks for
it's garbage.
Thank you. We got all right. Let me sign in here. Freaking Brax racking this shit. We got to get weights and shit, right? We need weights to know exactly when my boy was at 47. He started with the Malinage. So Malinage, Guerrero, Keith Thurman, Brandon Rios.
Well, it's limited too. Like he has what, less than 5 fights in the division?
Yes, Samuel Vargas is the other.
So he has a total. How many fights does he have in the division total? 5. Out of how many fights in his career?
Well, he's got 4, and Rios would be the 5th. Out of 33 fights in his career.
I think it's incomplete. We can't say it's garbage. How can you say that?
Exactly.
What if he comes out here?
Not to mention.
I'm saying it won't be, but I'm just saying you can't say it now. It's only 4 fights in. And he's only lost to a unified champion. Like it. I don't get that.
But that's the problem with Garcia and the fans. They're like, yeah, Matt, he only lost to Thurman because that's the only guy he's willing to face. You know what I mean? Like he's been strategically fighting.
You know what's funny? Even though the win was questionable, I thought he won, but the win was questionable for some people. Lamont Peterson, that was at 144. Obviously, some people aren't going to give that
42 1/4.
And obviously, people aren't going to give him credit for that win at welterweight, but we're going to give Earl Spence a shit ton of credit for facing such a tough first title defense in Lamont Peterson.
Yeah, but it was a different fight.
Danny for fighting him. So, you know, like there are some.
I don't even like that you're painting that narrative. It's a totally different fight. Lamont versus Earl. Lamont is a grown man with way more experience, able to fill in. He was always squeezed.
Grown man. How old is he now compared to how old was he in the Danny fight?
Well, in the Danny fight, it's going to be 3 years ago.
It was not that long ago, was it?
Well, it is now. We're in 2018. If we're speaking years, but it's 2 years and 2 years 6 months.
How old is Lamont Peterson right now? Do you know?
Louise, you're making me do all this producer work. This guy
Come on, producer. Come
33
on.
years old.
But he was 30 when he fought Danny.
Yeah.
In the middle of his prime. Come on, man. I'm not gonna take that shit.
Still, listen, my thing is that
30-year-old is not grown. Come on.
Hear me out. Don't get caught up on what I said about him being a grown man. Get caught up more on the fact that Lamont is not having to sacrifice to make weight. If you watch my interviews when he fought Lucas Matisse, his trainer complained about that way back then.
I'm not gonna give him that shit. I don't care. You signed for that weight. I don't care.
All right.
If the weight's that hard and it's going to affect your performance that much, don't sign for that weight.
So speaking of welterweights and careers being garbage at that division, Lamont faced Avanesian, David, and will face Earl Spence Jr.
Mm-hmm.
That's his career. And he has 35 fights.
Okay.
3 losses, 1 draw. Born in 84. So it's what I'm saying. Like, in retrospect, all these careers will look good. It's like Canelo. 5 years ago, I was talking mad shit about Canelo's career and how he's facing the likes of Jose Cotto and what's his name from Contender? Gomez something.
Was
it
Alfonso?
Alfonso? Was it Alfonso Gomez?
I think so.
I don't know. The point is when Canelo burst on the scene with HBO Latino and Golden Boy and all that, like they were feeding him Love More Than to Do on HBO. You know what I mean? They wanted to build him, and we now know. We learned. They learned us. We were forced to learn our lesson that they build their stars. But now in retrospect, his career looks amazing. You look at it and you look like you're like, yo, whose resume is as good as Canelo's? But 5 years ago, we would say that the promoters were resume building. And it's no different. It's no different than a Garcia. Because at welterweight, excuse me?
You can say right now Garcia's resume is good. Garcia has a good resume right now.
It is.
Like it's if you only want to handpick one division he's fought in for a literal 5% of his career, then yeah, you can do that and call it garbage if you want, I guess.
Not to mention, if he wins this fight,
your prerogative.
If he wins this fight, he's back in a fight with Keith Thurman. Some people thought he won.
He needs to beat, in all realities, he needs to beat one of these names to be solidified in the fans' eyes. Crawford, Thurman, Porter. He needs to beat, or Spence. He needs to beat one of those.
He's going to end up having to face Porter. Right? Yeah, that would be his best bet, right? Not his best bet. I guess the fans' best bet. Imagine if Danny faced Porter, it would kind of force Thurman to have to face Spence. Where else does Thurman go? If there's no Porter, what's left? And if Danny is the one fighting Porter, that's the other two big names. Who's left?
Crawford.
You wish. You wish.
Come on, that's there.
I hear you, but it's no way it's there after one fight. We're talking about after Keith's tune-up, because this is how it's going to play out.
In a hypothetical world, if Crawford is born and gets a title, it's 100% on the line.
But listen, it's not really that hypothetical. Think of it like this. In February, Danny's fighting Rios. In your opinion, you already have him winning. So now he's waiting, right? In March, April, Keith is fighting Vargas. You already have him winning. Now he's waiting. So Porter says, all right, my hand is good. I'm ready to fight Keith. Or is he? Would he rather come off the injury and fight a Danny who in his mind is easy work and a bigger fight, or another high-profile fight? Why not attach your name to the other big name in the welterweight division and quote-unquote easy win? They came all the way from Las Vegas to call out Danny, remember?
Nope. Come on.
But what?
Thurman beat him. We all know that bothers Ken and Shawn Porter more than just Danny. The win that Thurman has over Shawn bothers them.
All right, listen.
Hold on. Let me get my points. Come on. Tennis. Come on. Secondly, 2 belts. Come on, man. He holds all the fucking cards if he has those 2 belts, and Danny has to fight him.
Dude, you're forgetting that Shawn Porter is the stepchild of the welterweight division. He wants the Keith fight, but is he getting it? Espinoza and the world wants Earl. They want Earl. So if Danny takes that sacrifice, it's over.
Who does Keith want?
That's right. Keith wants Shawn.
Yeah, he does, right? Yeah. And doesn't Porter want Keith?
Yeah, but who's listen, who needs 3 months? Who needs at least 2 months of rest or 1 month of rest? Keith does, because Danny fights February 17th, right? Yeah. Danny fights February 17th. He's immediately available to negotiate with Shawn. They could solidify a fight before fucking Keith even gets his first tune-up off. And now he's forced. He's forced. He's out there in the open because Earl is going to be, in your opinion, beating Lamont in the next 18 days. So he's also available. He's just sitting there like, Al, I want Keith. Espinoza like, Al, we want this Keith Earl spot. All they need is to offer Danny the right money to take Porter off the fucking table, and it's a done deal for 2018.
Danny fight though. Danny's not taking the Shawn fight before he has a title shot. Come on, it's the same reason why probably Shawn won't take the fight anymore, because he has a guaranteed opportunity at the belt.
Did you not hear my keyword? Offer Danny the right money. Plus, remember,
they're not going to offer him that right money. Come on,
they can talk to the WBC and mandate it. It's like, yo, we got two mandatories, so we're gonna let Keith go handle his business and unify, because unifications take precedence. And the 2 mandatories,
that rule doesn't count.
And the 2 mandatories will now fight each other to make one. I like that. Mauricio, get it down.
That, first off, is a great world if you want to live in a world based off of meritocracy. But in reality, in the actual world, in our universe, and not in some parallel universe to Ness, that does not happen. We're gonna have Danny and Keith win their fights. Shawn wait for the Keith fight, and they're only gonna fight twice a year. So Danny's gonna fight Brandon and then one other guy while waiting for Keith and Shawn.
That's what I'm telling you. It's gonna be. We
know this.
It can be Keith and Earl end of the year. And it can be Keith and Vargas beginning of the year. Just like it could be Danny and Rios in the beginning of the year, Danny and Porter end of the year.
All I'm going to say is, for everyone, go to patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. Go watch the 3-hour Keith Thurman interview. Exclusive, me and Ness talking to him in the gym. And we talk about all this. And I don't think that's going to happen. In Ness's perfect world, I would love for it to happen, but it's not happening. And I think even Keith pretty much says so. But go check out that interview just to make sure.
Shout out to Mason signing up to Patreon, becoming part of the family. And also Sterling. Shout out to you, my friend. And I think there's one more around here. I could be wrong. I guess I was wrong. I'm crying now.
Let's go back to those. We're going to go back to Amin. We already played your intro.
Where is he?
I got him. Don't worry. Amin.
Matt, you got me today. Appreciate it, brother.
What up? We hear you.
So listen, they might as well have made Victor fucking Ortiz. I would have liked to see Victor Ortiz, Danny Garcia, if you're talking about an eliminator. Not that he's done much more than Brandon Rios, but at least we seen his ass on Channel 5, more or less. I think as far as, cash outs, I don't know what Rios is doing, Ortiz is doing, but maybe he think he's above a cash out. But if we got to deal with what's on the table, I do think, Brandon Rios is getting cashed out. Danny, this fight, what's wrong with GT Kid? He said it best. At 147, I don't want to say his career is trash, but he hasn't had enough fights to have any meaningful fights. So he better start getting some motherfucking fights in at 147. So that way we don't have to say that he did his best at 140, and then he's going to start reminding us of Amir Khan, a motherfucker that did his business at 140, and it was time to come to 147. He didn't exactly do what we thought he could do. So that's my call pretty much. Good show, great topic. First one here, last one to leave, even though I was fucked up in the beginning. And shout out to y'all, because y'all know what time it is. 2017, it's a little early for Call of the Year. Marcus is in the running for that. Marcus be at the fucking gas station jumping out, making his call. So shout out to Marcus from DC for that one. Info Joe, the regular cast of characters. I'm out.
All right, I mean, thanks for calling in. Just to add to that career at welterweight hyperbolic statement of it being trash, Rio's only 2 wins at welterweight are Diego Chavez, which was a disqualification win, Alvarado, which was a guy moving up, and Herrera. We're going out to New York City, the home of my boy Nas, right? QB, what up?
What up, son? Word. Yeah. To all the killers and 100, I got you stuck off the realness. We be the infamous, you heard of us. Official Queensbridge murderers.
Yes. First of all, Mr. Happy New Year to y'all.
Happy New Year, brother. Happy New Year.
That's boxing voice of the world. That's the real talk. But y'all, think about it. All right, Brandon Rios. Brandon Rios is not who y'all think. All right, that's he's a cherry. He's a Danny Garcia cherry. So I don't feel like that. Brandon Rios gonna give him a good fight. I'm telling you. Danny Garcia is, I don't know, like, y'all like Danny Garcia so much, like they gave him another title eliminating. I don't believe that. That's crazy. Why would they give him? They already spent. Who did Danny beat at 147? He can't be Porter. He can't be none of them. He can't be Porter. He can't be Spence. He ain't gonna never be Spence. He can't be Thurman. I mean, he lost to Herrera. Danny Garcia is flat-footed with counter-punch, and that's what he got. I don't think. That fight with him and Rios gonna be harder than people think. Don't think you think he's gonna just wipe Rios out. He got the good trainer back, Garcia, and champion. I'm telling you, it's gonna be a harder fight. He just like you got Marcus McDonald ready for Floyd. They will focus Rios so he can cause them some problems. And everybody gonna have the puppy face. I'm telling you. Everybody want to be Thurman again. They don't need anyone look Spence way. Like they trying to say they act like Spence don't even got a strap. Everybody want to kind of eliminate this for Thurman. They ain't talking about Spence. Why? That's my call today, man. That's it.
QB, thanks for calling in, brother. Let's go out to Dallas. Gary, what's going on?
And what's going on? I think it's really well played by Danny Garcia. I mean, you guys said he's probably getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 1.25 million. Let me ask you: would you rather fight Brandon Rios for 1.2, or say Shawn Porter or Errol Spence for 1.5? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but Gary, come on. If we're gonna always ask ourselves and put ourselves in the position of the fighter and in their shoes, we'll always take the easier route.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it's Brandon Rios isn't. I think it'll be an entertaining fight as long as it lasts. I do think Danny will stop him, but I think it'll be a good, an entertaining, a TV-friendly fight, and it sets him up for a bigger fight, a bigger payday. If he just took the Porter fight when it was mandated to him or offered to him, and he lost, where does that leave him? That leaves him having to rebuild totally. So, I mean, this is honestly a smart move for Garcia. I know everyone's going to call it a cherry pick and this and that.
Yeah, but you're translating
it as he should win.
You're translating it as smart, and the fans are translating it as what he's always done in his career.
They can both be true. It can be a cherry pick and be the smart move.
Yeah. Is it a smart move? Yeah. I mean, it's a fight where he should look good. It's a style that's suited for him.
But it's also a very calculated matchup.
It is. But I'm saying if you know that you can get the Porter fight at any time, and that's a risky fight, and you know you can get this other easier fight for $1 million plus, I mean, you'd be silly not to take it, knowing that I can get Porter after that, or I can get Thurman after that. I mean,
hey Gary, we're not saying that it's a dumb move, but keep in mind that he hasn't fought for a year. He's been turning down fights. This very same eliminator was offered versus Shawn Porter, which was more high profile. It's a bigger fight. And yes,
right, and he wasn't going to make that much more for the fight, though. I mean, how much more do you think he would have made?
I mean, he made $2 million. He made $2 million for Keith. So him facing Shawn is at least 1.5, 1.6, or $2 million each. Him and Keith made $2 million.
I'm saying 1.5. I don't think he would have got 2. Yeah, that was unification fight. Against Porter would have been a non-title fight. So let's say it was 1.5. He can still get that fight for 1.5 at least, probably more after he beats Rios. So he make more for that fight after beating Rios, and he get, I don't want to call it an easy million, but he's making a softer.
This is the thing, Gary. This is the thing, Gary. You're obviously not one of those guys that puts cherry emojis on his Instagram photos. But if you are, you're not looking at this as a strategic move. You're looking at this as a cherry pick. And this is not me speaking. I am just breaking it down for my listeners. You know, those young adults that do not indulge in social media. I know tons of older people that just won't fuck with Instagram, let alone Twitter. Maybe they got a Facebook, so they don't get all this news. Like, you think they know that Danny had that video where he's grabbing his girl's ass? You seen that the other day? That was pretty dope. Talking about it's funny too, because he's like, it was a shot at the division too, right?
I believe so. I didn't read the caption, to be fair. But also for the idea of like cherry pick, not cherry pick, let's look at who the other elite guys in the division have fought recently. Earl Spence is fighting Lamont Peterson. It's highly rumored Keith Thurman is fighting Jesse Vargas off of an injury. Shawn Porter just fought Andre Berto. And then Danny Garcia is fighting Brandon Rios. Like, there is a distinct level gap between all these B-sides and Brandon Rios. Let's just be real about that.
Oh, so you're saying that Rios is the worst B-side?
You can definitely argue that.
I thought you were making the case that they were all even B-sides, because I'm like, oh, listen.
No. They're all B-sides better than a Brandon Rios. Even a fucking Andre Berto is better than a Brandon Rios. Let's be real. Come on. Let's all be real here for a second.
Berto's pretty punchy, man. He's faster than Rios for sure. He's gonna land more shots on Danny, possibly because of the speed, until Danny times him. I think Berto's punchy. I think when he would get hit by good shots, he would wobble. I remember Upshaw did it to him in Cincinnati. And I mean, yeah, it was a fight coming back, one of his first with Virgil. Who knows? I mean, look, you're absolutely right if you put it in, put it in that way.
And if I'm those fans on social media tweeting out like cherry emojis about Danny Garcia, I'm making that argument every day because it's there and there's some credence to it.
Well, all right, let's go back to the phone lines. We got Donald in Richmond, California. Donald, what's going on, brother?
What's going on, man? Man, you know what? It's so many different angles to come at this. Like, I could say that Danny is cherry picking to fight Brandon Rios, but I look at it this way too. Guess what? Danny Garcia didn't have to fight Brandon Rios because I'm not sure if I'm correct, but wasn't he supposed to just get a rematch anyway? I mean, he could have just got a Keith Thurman rematch without even fighting Brandon Rios. So this is like a cherry pick / tune-up / get back active fight, and I can understand why Danny wouldn't want to take a Porter fight because, you know, like one of the other callers said, or I think one of you guys said, I mean, if he loses to Porter, that's like you going back to the bottom. I mean, you know, you got to rebuild all the way from there. And I feel like that, you know, I think a couple of shows ago, you guys were talking about how Danny's got friends that are like a basketball player. He's got a nice house. And I seen something about he was modeling for, I think, Echo or something. And they're saying, you know, Danny's pretty content with what he has. You know, who knows? Maybe Danny's looking at it in a different angle. Maybe Danny's looking at it like, look, I'm not finna fight no Shawn Porter and risk losing, and I'm not gonna fight Errol Spence, risk losing. Like, fuck it, I'm gonna fight Brandon Rios, and if I lose again, I lose to Keith Thurman, because if I do fight Keith Thurman again and I win, I get the 2 belts. Like how I had at 140, I had WBC, WBA at 140, and maybe he's still stuck in that dream of being WBC and WBA champion, but he wants it at 147. So maybe he beats Brandon Rios, and then he goes into the Thurman fight, and then when he loses to Thurman, you know, maybe Danny might be like, fuck it. Like, I got money. I don't even need to box no more. Like, fuck that shit. Like, I didn't get it. Oh, well. You know, I feel like Danny doesn't want to lose to someone like a Porter or Errol Spence. I feel like if he's going to go for it and get it. And if you don't, you don't. But, oh, well. You know, and at the end of the day, he could still say, hey, look, so what? I got money. I'm set. You know, my kid's set. I'm good. Like, I don't even have to box no more. I don't think Danny wants to take a lot of L's, you know, and I feel like he's strategically moving his career like that because that's just not what he wants, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, he fights Thurman and loses and says, I fucking retire. You know, could you guys see something like that?
Donald, thanks for calling in. Retirement, I don't know, man, because I think that there's other fights out there for him. Like, even if he won this fight and he got an immediate rematch with Thurman and he lost, that's only 2 losses. You know, he could easily get like a rematch, come back with Lamont. Like, there's so many guys in that division that you could just mix and match that I think it's early to say that he may retire. Now, I hear you about the mindset, but I just think that they've been doing intelligent business for so long now, Matt, that if they lost to Thurman, they would get another $800 to $1.2 million tune-up.
Seconds.
Easily. Like Danny still has probably the biggest name cachet in the division.
Especially if he builds himself back up to the position of a Thurman rematch and then puts on another decent performance. Like, you know, who's going to shun him away because he lost to one of the greatest welterweights of this generation?
Yo, first of all, let me say, I don't pay Showtime to see you all there, not even putting a goddamn motherfucking answer. If I want to see some motherfucker just fight, I think I'm gonna fight with somebody in the street. Don't need that shit. You don't love that form I do? Just move along. Gone. Fuck you. Next. What a great show. Thumbs up, donate. Hey, yo! What's happening, people? 2018, the rebirth of the dragon. Going on with this cherry picking, B. Cherry picking. Every single caller that calls so fast says this shit is a cherry pick. Nobody want to see no fucking Rios. Fucking outrageous. Eddie Hearn get all kind of fucking hit. All kind of hit. Oh, he's postponing the fight with fucking Wilder. Postponing the fight. But other mother
10 seconds.
Shit lined up before fucking we see Thurman versus Spence. The fight that everybody wanted to see 147. So we know already we got 2 fucking fights coming up. This shit not gonna be until 2019 or 2020.
Georgie.
But I don't see no fucking complaint about that.
Georgie, I feel like arguing today. Let's debate. Let's debate your analogy of Earl and Spence and how the boxing voice, because that's what you're trying to say, how Earl and Spence is the fight the world wants to see and the boxing voice isn't pushing it, but the boxing voice is pushing the narrative that Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua should fight right now, and it needs to happen right now because I'm an American heavyweight dick rider, right? That's what you're trying to say, right? You just say it.
Hold on, you kept saying Earl Spence, and it's
all right. So here's how your logic is always wrong because you're just not. Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
you kept saying Earl and Spence. It's Spence and Thurman. Just so the listeners can understand.
The listeners, it's Keith and Spence is the big fight that Georgie is talking about that we should be pushing equally as hard as we're pushing for Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder to happen. Matt, help me out here while I bust this loser down. Can you pull up Keith and Spence? I'll pull up Joshua and Wilder. And we were discussing Danny and how many fights.
I don't know how you're gonna defend this shit, man.
All right.
Defend this shit. It's a fucking overwhelming evidence out there.
All right, but I'm gonna give you evidence. Do you want to? Do you
shit.
want to just hear yourself talk, or you want evidence like you asked for it?
Yeah, show me some evidence.
Okay. Because I'm gonna make it quick. We don't need box rec. When Anthony Joshua won his belt versus Charles Martin, that was his first heavyweight championship fight, right?
And
okay. And now this is Earl Spence.
Waiting for the punchline.
This is Earl Spence Jr. only second welterweight fight after being a champion. This is his first defense. Anthony Joshua has defended his belt how many times? How many times? How many times? How many times? How many times has he defended the fucking belt?
So
so now that don't matter, right? That don't matter. But for Earl, this fight gotta happen right now.
To the history of boxing,
man, get your loser. You lose.
Boxing on the welterweight division, and you go back to the Trinidad time when he conquered the fucking division, fight champion after champion, don't mean anything.
Georgie.
So your whole fucking narrative there don't mean shit.
Georgie.
It's been done before. It's nothing new. He could do it. And especially when everybody knows that Spencer will smoke everybody out 147. It ain't no secret.
Georgie.
But they just want to fucking be greedy and put this shit.
But Georgie, ain't that the same narrative?
Yes, hold on. Let me get some rounds in here. Georgie, is Anthony Joshua coming off an injury? Yes or no?
And so what that means?
It's always going to be.
What that means? What you saying?
If Anthony Joshua was.
What happened with the injury? What? Tell me the injury. What happened with that?
You asked a question. Let me answer it. If Anthony Joshua was rehabbing from an injury, none of us would be calling for him to have a unification fight. You do realize that, right? If Keith Thurman was not coming off a rehab injury.
When you got an injury on a joint, it takes a long time. It takes like a year for you to recover. I don't give a fuck if you're Wolverine. It will take a long time to recover from a fucking joint injury. We all know this.
Okay.
Ain't no thing. But if we got the WBC Mafia and I'm motherfucking him on his fucking cherry-picking diet for Danny Garcia, putting 2 fights before we even talk about Spence, that's another year plus the year ready to come. So we're talking 2 years.
Georgie, man, your time's up, bro.
What part of that doesn't come in the equation? What you don't get about that?
Want to thank you for calling
Talking
in.
about two eliminatories. What the fuck is that?
Want to thank you.
Anyways, everybody out there supporting the new year. Donate, enjoy Patreon the whole night. I'm outie.
You lost though.
And it's funny because Joshua just fought Klitschko and then Takum. And then, hard touch, soft touch. And we wanted to have another hard touch again. And Keith Thurman had Shawn Porter and then, that's right, Danny Garcia. Tough one. Hard one. Real one. Back to back. Yeah, and coming off an injury. There's a reason why we're not calling for the Spence unification this exact moment. I think it's pretty clear and understanding.
But the problem with his
like the other fanboys, then go be a fanboy. But don't expect to call into the show and to get off that fanboyism bullshit without actual facts being thrown back in you. Come on.
The problem with his logic is that Earl Spence is Anthony Joshua. Earl Spence is the one they're pushing. What? Why you made that face?
I think I don't know if that's the right comparison, to be honest.
Why not? Listen, let me explain. As soon as Anthony Joshua won that belt, people said he was the king in the division. He could beat everybody. Okay? No one is saying Joshua can't beat Wilder. They're saying Wilder's begging for the fight. He hasn't fought anyone. They're not saying Joshua can't beat him. Bernstein, Steve Farhood, everyone, Google it. How many people are picking Anthony Joshua? So for him to act as if Joshua is, Danny or Keith in this situation, it doesn't make any sense because he's not. He's not. The one in the driver's seat is Earl. He's got the network behind him.
That's not true.
The public behind him. What?
I don't think. He's
got his foot on Keith's neck. Keith can't even enjoy his wedding without people asking him, why you ducking Earl? He got fucking ice on his elbow. Why you ducking Earl? Come on, bro.
I think that's the fans. I think the fans are in that position. I'll put it that way. I don't think the industry.
Dude, Keith came back to watch a fight, man. He came back to watch a fight, and Showtime put him up there, face swollen. He ain't even fucking get on a diet yet. He wasn't expecting that shit. He ain't even had his hair.
Yeah, he did. Come on. He expected that.
Dog, he ain't even had his hair braided. He was up there like, yo,
he's a hippie. He walks around with sandals on. Come on, like you.
How many screenshots are they of that conversation between Brian Custer, Earl, and Keith? Because Keith wasn't ready. He was just like all these screenshots of Keith looking weird, looking at Earl like, yeah, that fight. It was just not. He wasn't ready.
Again, you're talking about from the fans. You're talking about memes and everything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. You're talking about the industry as well. The industry
put him in that chair, in that table in front of him.
The industry does not have their foot on Keith Thurman's throat, pushing for this fight.
The industry put him in that booth, man.
Come on, they don't.
So the fans put him there to be interviewed by Brian Custer in front of the world during the intermission to a fight.
Keith used this word in our 3-hour interview. Come on, man, marination. Come on, man. Like the industry is marinating this fight. There's no foot on anyone's throat.
Absolutely.
They realize in 12 to 18 months, this fight's going to be insane.
But Matt, with everything that they do, it climaxes more. It gets even more intense. For instance, when Wilder won, he immediately called out Joshua. So all the headlines was, "Oh, Wilder," and I declare war. If that shit's still going around. That's what you do. That's what you're supposed to do. So yeah, is it marination? Yeah, it's build up, but it's the networks. They're the industry. It's the networks telling Keith, yo, come on. I know you're on vacation, but no, you got to come watch this fight. We're going to make you do this interview. You got to talk about this fight. They're not talking about Keith versus whoever else, they're talking Keith versus Spence.
But I also don't think in a similar fashion, I don't think the network have, and again, to use your term, the foot on anyone's throat for Joshua Wilder. They are just hyping it up. They are marinating it. I don't think it's necessarily them pressuring.
Well,
I think all parties involved, to be honest, know exactly what they have right now, and they know how to make it work and how to make it bigger.
Well, that's why I say that his logic doesn't work, because in my argument, they're not pushing for the Wilder Joshua fight. They're content letting him do.
I don't know. I mean, we've had Steven Espinoza come out recently and say that Wilder Joshua is the fight we want to make in 2018.
Oh yeah, but yet they're televising Takam, and they would televise Dylan White if the Joseph Parker negotiations.
They would televise any Anthony Joshua fight.
Yeah, but HBO took a stance. Remember, HBO took a stance with Vladimir, and they didn't televise certain heavyweight fights with Vladimir.
But that's because Vladimir wasn't the cross.
He didn't have the style. I will say that he didn't have the style, so they were not happy with his style. But it is what it is. You can, as a network, take a stance on what you want to buy.
Of course, but we also know that the HBO had an offer for Joshua Takam that wasn't in the mainstream news. That
bullshit offer.
They had a bid that was the same offer as Showtime. Showtime just matched it. We read that same article, Ness.
Phrasing that, yeah, but you're phrasing that wrong.
At one point, I think it was $7 million.
Matt, you're phrasing that wrong. It's not the same offer as Showtime. I said it was a bullshit offer. Listen, I said it was a bullshit offer. You said, what? It's the same offer as Showtime. No, Showtime matched HBO's offer, and because Joshua is in bed with Showtime, his alliance was with them. He said, okay, I'll take the same money with you.
Well, he has to contractually.
Well, I don't know if that's the language in the contract.
Well,
I'm just going based off loyalty because that's how I would do it. It's like, yo, Matt, I fuck with you, Matt. Huh?
That's not what it is. It's not. Yes, we have verbal contracts here. Let's be real. But Showtime, Joshua, they have, dozen paper contracts, and if they match an offer, that means they have some sort of exclusive rights to that matching. You know what I'm saying? Like they have. I don't think Joshua can back out of a matched bid from Showtime. I don't think he can do that and go to HBO
unless HBO counter offers with a higher bid.
That would happen. I don't think that did. I don't think that happened. Obviously.
But that's my thing. I don't know the language in his contract, but I'm just simply
that wasn't the point of what I brought that up. I brought that up because HBO has bid for Joshua Takum. So obviously HBO does want to be in the Joshua business. They bid for it. They bid for a tune-up.
Whatever. Spiral, he took us down a hole with his weak argument. Drive by, because this has gone way longer.
Drive by.
Sonny in the UK. 30 seconds. Talk to me.
Hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on? Anyway, I've been sharing you with my friends in England, and you're doing a good thing out there. Anyway, we're talking about Danny Garcia. He's never been the GOAT. He's never been the killer. He's never been the truth. He's always had his fights picked for him, and also he done it correctly. He held the title for a good time. The only credibility I give him, he beat Lucas Matisse, so he's pretty good. Apart from that, we've been cherry picking. But also, guys, before I go, I want to let you know about a couple of fighters from my town. Josh Taylor is a fighter to look out for. Conor Ben, and another fighter, Josh Kelly. So, anyway, thanks for having me on.
All right, Sonny, thanks for calling in. Mike in Orlando. Or New York? What the hell?
I think he's from Orlando, but now is in New York.
Mike? 407-952?
That's Dennis, bro.
Dennis.
My bad.
That's Tampa, right? I thought it was Tampa.
Yeah, that's me.
I must have grabbed the wrong name. My bad.
No, I work in Tampa. No, it's Dennis.
So you from Orlando or Tampa?
I'm here. I live in Tampa and work in Orlando, and every day I commute.
No, I know exactly who I'm talking to. I just didn't know.
Me?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay, cool. Let me jump and get my drive-by. Every time I call you guys, I get a damn drive-by, but it is what it is. Real quick, Danny's career has been scripted. I wouldn't say junk, but for some reason the WBC wants him as his champ. Because if you look at it, they gave him 2 gifts with Morales, 1 gift with Guerrero. Now they're gonna give him a gift by making this fight open door policy to the WBC champ. They want him and his father to sell tickets because Porter and his father don't. So if anything I've learned observing this chess match, it's all about how many more tickets I can sell, how many more people I can get to watch the fight, how many more money I can make, because it ain't about that. That's why they're pushing Danny up front and they're pushing Porter to the back. That's it for me. Happy New Year, everybody. I appreciate y'all.
All right, Dennis. Thanks for calling in. We're going out to Joshua, New Orleans.
Yeah, let me run it right quick. I ain't never been no supporter of Danny Garcia, and this is just another cherry on his list. It's like the last caller said, his whole career been scripted, and he always been a bigger guy at 140, beating up on the smaller guys. As soon as he move up to 147 and find guys similar in size and frame, which he is similar in frame to Errol Spence and Keith Thurman, he don't want to fight these fights. He want to fight smaller guys and pick on smaller guys. Danny Garcia is a cherry picker and will be forever a cherry picker. That's my call.
Joshua, thanks for calling in. Well, Matt. Oh, shit. We got one more. Hold on. We got Jay Will.
If you know like I know, you should lie low. Killer, I used to get it in Ohio.
Yeah, man. Man, I missed the show, man. I'm catching the tail of it. But just real quick, man. Everybody know what Danny's doing. There's no need to really speak on that. But I don't know, man. This is the first time ever in life I've kind of felt what Georgie Porgy was saying tonight, man. And he kind of got you riled up, and that's what made me laugh a little bit. But there was a lot of truth to it in the comparison, I believe.
Well, do a better job of explaining the comparison than he did because I don't see it. Thurman, Spence is having his first defense. Joshua fought Charles Martin to win. Then his next fight was what? Eric Molina?
No. Dominic Brazil.
Look how many fights he's had, and he won't face the best.
Dylan White, then Eric Molina.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear all these fights. They're just like, oh no, we're rushing the Wilder Joshua fight.
I'm not saying we rushing anything. I'm just saying at the end of the day, though, everybody wants to see a unification. I'm not saying they need to fight this fight or the very next fight, but Keith Thurman's his language and his posture doesn't look good to the fans. Every time he's asked about Errol Spence, his whole demeanor changes. I mean, but you're asking about Danny, his eyes lights up. Asking about Shawn, his eyes lights up. So it's not as if he's not even welcoming the challenge, honestly, in a true champion way. And that's being real, man. If you're looking at it at these interviews and you say he was just thrown up there in the Showtime interview or that pre-fight with him and Errol Spence, he was just thrown up there and caught off guard. At the end of the day, you're a champion. You know everybody wants your belt. So you're going to know that question's coming. So I just think that once he gets rid of this mandatory and maybe another defense after Lamont Peterson for Earl, they should definitely unify. There shouldn't be any other ifs, ands, or buts about that, man. That's my call.
All right. Listen, I think that it's going to happen, but to state that it is the same as the situation in the heavyweight division is just ludicrous.
It's just categorically untrue and false.
Yeah, I mean,
vastly different situations. Sorry.
Because first of all, it's not like, because who is Keith? If Keith is not Wilder, then he's Joshua. But how is he Joshua when he can't get a Pacquiao fight? He can't get a Horn fight. He's not universal. He can't go everywhere. But my comparison is correct because even Aram is saying that Earl is Joshua and saying that Earl is the Terrence Crawford super fight, the one that will be on pay-per-view. So, and the world is the one that has Earl pegged as the man, just like the world has Joshua pegged as the man. HBO and Jim Lampley do you not watch the Fight Game? They're not talking about Wilder. The world thinks Wilder is sloppy and wild and a bum. I don't get how that comparison is any good. That's bullshit. Anyway, those were actually my final thoughts. So that's it. Actually, that was yeah, whatever, man. I mean, Danny, Eliminator, let's see ya, because it's like I said, it's so early that, you know, saying his career is garbage at 47 now makes no sense, because if he wins this Rios fight, he's in there with Keith. Who knows what happens in that fight, you know? Confidence is king, and a second time around might make for a better fight. I'm your host, Nestor Gibbs. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at NestGTO.
My final thoughts. I think in today's age, a lot of people have a difficult time having two, on surface level, contradictory thoughts in the same opinion. I think you can have that here. You can say that Brandon Rios is a soft touch / cherry pick for Danny Garcia. You can also say that he deserves it. He's coming off a loss. First loss of his career. He deserves to fight a top 20 welterweight in a softer touch. And he's had a year-long layoff. You can definitely say that. And you can also say that it does not deserve to be a title eliminator. But all the thoughts are not based off of the one not being true or vice versa. They can all be true. I think that sometimes the boxing fan has a hard time going to that realm of saying that these two seemingly contradictory thoughts coexist and they are both true. That is the case here. I'm Matt Hipster Hunter. Make sure you check out the new Standing 8 Count episode that was posted last week, as well as the new one on Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be the first live show of Standing 8 Count on patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice, a live Q&A, all topics, all questions answered. Should be fun. I'm Matt Hipster Hunter, and you can find me at Mixed Combat News on Twitter, Matt Hunter TBV on Instagram, my MMA podcast, Mixed Combat Radios on Patreon, SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, etc. Peace.
Peace.